You're listening to Rotary on the Radio on 107 Meridian FM. It's Ginny Waddingham here in the studio, and I've been joined by Leslie Robinson and also our guest this afternoon, Henry Grubb. Henry is the recipient of one of the Community Service Awards given to individuals once a year for service to the local community. The chairman of Mid Sussex District Council, Peter Reid, said it was one of the highlights of the District Council calendar, where the council is able to honour all those who give their time freely to benefit the community. This happened on an afternoon tea event at the Ravenswood in Sharpthorne on Sunday the 25th of September, and the presentations were made by the chairman of the council, Councillor Peter Reid, and the High Sheriff of West Sussex, Mark Spoforth, OBE. East Grinstead Town Mayor, Councillor Bob Mainstone, had nominated Henry for the award, and part of the citation reads, Henry won the National RHS Young Gardener of the Year Award. Henry was also chairman of the Imberhorn Fair Trade Group, and the success of his workshops at Imberhorn School resulted in the team being invited to run workshops at the Fair Trade National Conference in London. Henry sounds to be a really interesting young man, and I'm really fortunate to have him here in the studio with myself and Leslie. Hello, Henry.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to the studio. Now, you are no stranger to awards, as I understand it, because you received, as I said there in that little blurby bit, the National RHS, which is Royal Horticultural Society Young Gardener Award. Now, what was that, and when did that happen?
So that was way back in 2012, and that was a national competition across the whole country to find the best gardener in a school for several key stages. And the teachers who run the gardening programme at Imberhorn decided that they'd nominate me, and so they nominated me for this award. I didn't know about it at the time, and I was shortlisted as a finalist, and that's when they told me.
Yeah.
And I had to make a promotional video kind of explaining everything I do at school, and how I do the gardening. And I submitted the video, and I won the Key Stage 3 category from that video.
Well done. So where did your interest in gardening come from then?
Well, it goes back a long way, because my parents have always been keen gardeners. Ever since I was very young, you know, we've always kept good control of our garden. My mum loves gardening, and we have an allotment at home as well that my father and my mother both like to get involved with, and it's always been something that I've always done from a very young age. I've always taken part in that, and we've always loved the outdoors, and so growing plants, growing vegetables as well, it's been part of my upbringing. So
it was a sort of a natural progression for you,
yeah.
from your home life going into your school life.
Definitely.
Yes. So Henry, you were saying you were at Imberhorn. When you were there, did they already have some gardening projects in place, or did you have to kind of gain approval and agreement to try some different projects while you were there?
There was a gardening project there for people with learning disabilities. That's where it started off. Those people who perhaps struggle a bit more in the classroom, take them out into the garden where there are no barriers when it comes to things like that, and people can get involved. But there wasn't anything for everyone else. And so I asked Mr. Langstone, who was one of the teachers, the science teacher there, who was running that kind of thing, if there was a possibility that we could do a gardening club after school once a week. And when I was in year 8, which would have been 2011, they said yes, we'll start that up. So we started up a gardening club that ran once every week after school, and I got involved with that. And I've been going to that. Well, I was going to that ever since then, until I left Imberhorn in the summer this year.
So did you have a plot at Imberhorn School, or did you take charge of certain flower beds? And
Imberhorn is greatly varied. So there's lots of areas. There's a little woodland area at Imberhorn that we took over. They've got some front bed areas that we turned into wildflower meadows, and then they've also got at lower school quad gardens in the middle. So they've got a staff garden that we've looked after, and there's a pond in there. And then in the other quad, there's a allotment patch that we've taken over, and we built some raised beds there, and have been looking after the vegetables in that area as well, and some fruit trees.
So did you give the vegetables free to the teachers, or do you sell them?
I notice he hasn't got a bag with him, Leslie.
No, he hasn't. Not for us, no.
I'm sorry. We tried, where possible, we try to use some of the things in the canteen, because that's always a good thing to do, because we like to encourage people. We're growing the food. No, let's eat the food. Otherwise, it was a donation system. We'd say we've got a punnet of raspberries. Who wants to give us a little bit of money towards that? And so, if a member of staff wanted to buy a few punnets of raspberries, they could do that.
Oh, that sounds delicious. Fresh
I know.
raspberries.
Yes.
What a bonus.
Yes, still no bag, though.
No, not for us. Never mind, Ginny. We can't have everything, can we?
No, we can't.
So, Henry, I believe that while you were there at Imberhorn, you visited Westminster Abbey for a harvest festival. Would you like to tell us about that? It sounds quite exciting.
It was really one of the highlights of gardening at Imberhorn. When another student from Imberhorn, they won highly commended in the gardening competition, I think the year after that. And as part of that, they actually met the Duchess of Cornwall. And the Duchess of Cornwall was so impressed with what they had to say that they invited Imberhorn to come to this harvest festival that they were the patron of. And so I remember in October we went up to Westminster Abbey. We took a whole crate load of vegetables and fruit that we'd grown, and some jams and preserves as well. And we had a fantastic harvest festival where the whole nave in Westminster Abbey was lined with fruit and vegetables that scout groups and girl guiding groups and other schools had brought along. And we met the Duchess of Cornwall and some other important people as well. And we said, this is what we've brought. And they said, thank you for coming. And then there was a choir service, and there were some readings from Damien Lewis, and it was a really fantastic celebration of growing in the UK. It was fantastic.
And was the produce that distributed afterwards to perhaps to needy people or something?
Yes, it was all loaded up onto a beautiful. I've forgotten the word. It's a one of those brewery wagons.
Oh, a flatbed.
Yes, one of those things.
Yeah.
That was drawn by Shire horses, and it was all loaded up into
dray,
there.
I think.
A dray.
That's
it. And it was all loaded up onto there, and it was taken through the streets of London. It was distributed among those who would benefit from those kind of the kind of produce.
Oh, that sounds absolutely...
Sounds fantastic.
Doesn't
That
it,
must have
Jenny?
been really memorable.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
obviously it is, because you've just told us all about it. It's something, and it is things like that you're never going to forget, really, isn't it, Henry?
Once in a lifetime.
Yeah, I should say. Now, you've also done some work much closer to home in East Grinstead with the Bloom project. What have you sort of enjoyed most about helping with that, and how did you discover East Grinstead in Bloom?
One of the other teachers who runs the gardening project at Imberhorn, Mrs. Dorr, is on the committee for East Grinstead in Bloom. And one of the first thing I did with them is they invited East Grinstead in Bloom into school on a Saturday to do an action day where we were planting wildflower meadows, and I came along to help with that. And one of the things you instantly love about a community project like that is how it brings everyone together in the community. We're all here, know about 20 people, from all over East Grinstead, who would all come together because they wanted to help, improve the gardens at Imberhorn, plant a wildflower meadow. We were all there, and it's a really fun event to go to. And there was a cake break as well, which they had.
Oh,
had
that
some
always
fantastic
helps.
cake.
If you offer cake, I'm normally there, so I'm surprised that I wasn't, to be honest. Now, you did a bit of a blog about that time, is that right?
Yes. So the RHS, after I won the award, they said, well, actually, we really liked your video. Would you like to come and do some blogging for us on our website? And I said, I'd love to do that. So for the next 3 years or so, I was sending weekly articles that were published on their website about gardening at Imberhorn and gardening in general, actually, at home as well, and all sorts of other things that I really enjoyed doing that.
I'm sure. Now, I understand that also led to you being invited to the Chelsea Flower Show.
Yes.
But not just any old day. You were invited along for Press Day.
Yes.
And that's really special, isn't it?
It was.
I've been fortunate enough through somebody else, Leslie, to be there on the Press Day. And it's amazing, because you walk past people and you're constantly like, oh, there's so-and-so.
Yeah.
There's so-and-so.
It was exactly like that. Exactly.
You forget to look at the plants because you keep looking at the celebrities.
Yes, it really is a red carpet event, and it's kind of a bit of a coup to be able to, lowly little me to be able to go there. But yes, the RHS, because it was 2013 and they were celebrating 100 years of the Chelsea Flower Show, and so they were running a plant of the centenary competition to find the best plant from the past 100 years of gardening, and they asked me if I'd like to be one of the ambassadors for one of the plants. And I said I'd absolutely love to be an ambassador.
Yes.
And so I was given the plant from the decade that I was born in, which was the Geranium Roseanne. And they said, we'd like you to be the Geranium Roseanne's ambassador in the competition. And that meant I got to go to a filming day at Wisley, RHS Wisley, where we filmed a video about me talking about the Geranium Roseanne. And then I went to press day at Chelsea, really just to enjoy press day. And it really is a fantastic event. I've never done anything like that. So.
And when you mentioned the year you were born, Henry, and I'm sure there's people listening, and would it be too rude of me to ask how old you are?
Not at all. I'm 18.
18. There you go, Leslie.
And Henry, can I ask you a little more about this Geranium Roseanne?
Mm-hmm.
What colour is it? And, is it long flowering? And
I think the Geranium Roseanne, because it then won Plant of the Centenary, I can honestly say it is the best plant from the past 100 years.
Really? Right. We must get some, mustn't we, Ginny, for our gardens?
It's a lovely purple geranium. Well, it's purple on the edges, and then it goes into a vivid white centre.
Beautiful.
And one of the things that people love about the Geranium Roseanne is how prolific a flower it is. It produces hundreds. It's a really good bedding filler. So you put it in a space, it will easily take up that space and fit in around the other plants, and it will just carpet it in a purple haze of geraniums. And it's got such a long flowering season. I've seen them flowering it will be flowering now. It really would, especially with the weather.
Have you planted it somewhere yourself?
Yes, we got one in our garden as well, and it just goes on forever. It starts flowering early, June time, and it will go on right until the end of September.
And as I say, we've got Henry, our guest this afternoon. Now, Henry is a recipient of one of the Community Service Awards that was given out recently by the Chairman of the Council, Councillor Peter Reid, and the High Sheriff of West Sussex, Mark Spoforth. And it was for his work with the National RHS Young Gardener of the Year Award, and also he was Chairman of the Imberhorn Fair Trade Group. And I think, Leslie, you've got a bit of a question about that, haven't you?
Yes, yes. Henry, can you tell us a little about what is fair trade?
Of course. Fair trade is basically a concept where the people who produce the food that we eat, that come from other countries, usually poorer countries abroad, they get a better pay. A better cut of the money that we as the consumers pay for items, so that it's a little bit fairer on them. It's very easy for big supermarkets especially to exploit the position that those kind of farmers are in, because they don't have much negotiating power, and so they get a very poor deal, whilst the supermarkets pocket most of the money that comes from our pockets when we pay for things. And so the fair trade concept is that maybe the profits from supermarkets should be a little bit less, so that the farmers who do the hard work on the other end get a little bit more, get a fair price for what they do.
Oh, well, that does seem very fair. If I
it does, and I know that fair trade has been going in the town per se for quite a long time.
Yeah. So Henry, you were chairman of the Imberhorn School Fair Trade Group for 3 years when you were there. So, what kind of things did you do? Did you have workshops and raise awareness?
We did a whole load of different things. We tried to do an event every term at Imberhorn, and so in the winter term or the autumn term, we normally do Christmas markets where we'd sell all sorts of Christmas fair trade Christmas goodies and presents and treats and chocolate. And then in the spring term, it would be Fair Trade Fortnight. So we do assemblies, and we do some workshops in primary schools, and we'd also have our big Fair Trade Day at Imberhorn, where students would set up game stalls that illustrated kind of an unfair concept, and people would pay those and raise money. And we'd also have a dodgeball match, an unfair dodgeball match, where it was teachers versus students, and the referee would always be extremely biased towards the teachers and give the students quite a hard time in that sports match.
Sounds a bit cruel, doesn't it, Leslie?
Yes.
It's definitely cruel, but that's what made it fun. So, so we enjoyed that. And then in the summer term, we always do. We go out to primary schools. We visit quite a lot of primary schools, and we run game workshops where we will play all sorts of unfair games with them. You know, there are obviously only small children at primary school, but we try and illustrate the unfair concept, and we try and really get them to, you know, get angry with us and say, that's not fair, you're not playing this game fair, which we're not, but that's obviously all part of the point.
Yes,
we're trying to show them what it's like.
Yeah. And you said you sell produce at the school. Where do you get that from?
We get a lot of our produce from a local trader who is part of Tradecraft. Tradecraft are a charity who are basically a seller and distributor of all sorts of fair trade goods. You can go on their online website and just order things to arrive by post. And we happen to know someone who is a Tradecraft trader, and we ask them they can bring in their market and all their goods. And then they'll sell their goods. We don't make a profit on that or anything. We just give them the platform so that we can sell it in Mahorn to raise awareness, really. And the market trader herself, she's retired, so she's not for profit either. She just does it to really help push these and sell these fair trade products, because obviously if there's no one buying the products, then it's not a viable business. So it's all just about getting the things sold, just so we can raise the awareness and raise the profile of fair trade products.
Because supermarkets, of course, sell fair trade products, but sometimes they are a little bit more expensive, and some people don't understand why they are. And it's simply because, as you say, that it means that the end person, the person who's actually putting the fork into the ground, is receiving a fair price for the hard work that they're putting in. And, you know, if you can afford it, I think it's a lovely way of supporting farmers. I know not everybody has, some people have to pick the cheapest thing on the shelf to keep their own family going, and that's okay too. We can understand that. But if you can afford just to pay, sometimes it's not any more expensive, Leslie, is it?
No,
Sometimes it's exactly the same price. But if you can afford to get those fair trade products, it definitely helps to put the pennies back into the pockets at the lower reach person, doesn't it, Henry? The person who's actually digging the soil, etc.
Increasingly now, I think we're finding that supermarkets are realising that fair trade products shouldn't be more expensive than normal products. I mean, if you look at bananas, for example, lots of supermarkets now only stock fair trade bananas, and most people buy fair trade bananas without really thinking about it, because they're pretty much the same prices.
They don't even know that they are half the time, probably.
Exactly. Yeah. Because if you go to somewhere like Waitrose, for example, it's 11p for a single banana. I don't think anyone buys a single banana, but it's just the standard price. But they're all fair trade there. And I think increasingly, because back in the olden days, I say the olden days, back
last week, Leslie.
say 10 years ago, yes, there was a marked difference between non-fair trade and fair trade products. But nowadays, because of the more fair trade products get sold, the more viable as a business they become, and indeed the cheaper they get. Not because the farmers are being paid less, but because it's the supermarkets are realising that they can decrease their profit margins in order to keep it the same price overall, but the farmers get paid a little bit more. And I think that I would say that if anyone says, and there are some fair trade products that are more expensive, that's true, I would have said that the price for a fair trade product is the correct price we should be paying. And if we're paying any less than that, then we're frankly getting it too cheap.
Yes.
And we're ripping someone off somewhere down the food chain. So the fair trade price, I think, is the proper price we should be paying.
That's really interesting. We had a similar thing in this country, haven't we, Leslie, with milk products?
Oh, yes, we do.
Because the farmers are not seemingly getting the right price for the milk. and you've got so many farmers now who, it's just not a viable business anymore. You know, the supermarkets want to bring people in and they want to lower the price of the everyday basics like bread and milk, but at the end of the day somebody suffers because of that. And you know, I think highlighting fair trade brings out all these different add-on bits and pieces to make sure that everybody, wherever they are producing, gets a fair price for the product that they're producing.
Yeah, I'm quite a passionate campaigner when it comes to the milk issue, and I think that the Fair Trade Foundation have said we don't get involved with the milk issue because we're solely focused on kind of more third world countries, poorer countries. But it's exactly the same concept.
Yes.
We look at, you know, it's easy to say the farmers in poorer countries are being ripped off. We understand that concept, but people don't realise that the dairy farmers around these islands are seriously underpaid for the milk that they're producing, and milk is, well, in some places it's cheaper than bottled water, and I don't think that makes sense.
No, not at all.
It's crazy. And I think meat is also another issue with a lot of the hill farmers, especially because you know, they've got their costs in raising the livestock, and then
we need to track down all these middlemen that are making all the profits. That's what we need to be doing, Leslie.
Yes.
Rotary on the radio this afternoon, and it's Ginny and Leslie with you, and we've got Henry Grubb here with us, and he is telling us all about why he won this amazing award. Actually, we will have to get onto that in a minute, Henry, but you're far too interesting, really, because you just a moment ago we were talking about the team were invited to run workshops at the national conference in London all about fair trade. That must have been so exciting, but a bit of a challenge. Do you want to tell us a bit more about how that went?
It was definitely a challenge, that's to say the least. When I got the email from the Fair Trade Foundation saying, we'd like you to actually do some workshops at our national conference, I was thinking, well, firstly I thought we've hit the big time here, but the second thought was, goodness, how are we going to prepare those? Because previously the only workshops we've done is for primary school children, and now we've got to do it for fair trade campaigners, you know, who have probably been doing this a lot longer than I have. You know,
preaching to the converted almost.
Well, exactly. We've got to tell them how to do their job, and considering I'm going to be, at the time I was 17, and you know, most of these people are seasoned campaigners. It felt a bit bizarre in that way, but it was. I just knew when we were in the minibus going up there, and we had a whole group of us. I'm trying to think. It was probably about 6 of us in total, and our teacher, Mr. Langstone, and we were just in the minibus going up there. I was quite nervous because I thought, have we prepared enough? I think we probably hadn't prepared enough, but we had it all written down on pieces of paper, so we knew what we were doing. And as soon as we got into London, I think it kind of hit me that we were doing something really big here. You know, this was a national conference held at King's College. So, you know, this was being held at a big university in London. Luckily we didn't have a lecture theatre to fill, but we had one of the seminar rooms that, you know, that they do proper teaching in and everything. And we went to the opening remarks first, which was in a big lecture theatre, and that kind of gave us an idea. There were a lot of people here. I mean, you know, we're talking over 1,000 people at the conference.
I was going to ask how many delegates, so about 1,000.
Yeah, probably about that. And we were running workshops for the first workshop was probably about 50 people, which is still by far the biggest workshop I've ever run. If you think about a primary school classroom is going to be 30 at the most. And I was very nervous, I'll be honest, when we had a Fair Trade Foundation officer with us who was going to host the workshop with us. But they did their introduction and said, well, we're going to hand you over to, you know, Imberhorn School, who are the main part of this workshop, and I was very proud. I think the obviously, you know, I was only one of the speakers. We were obviously all speaking together, but it was a very proud moment to think that in just less than 3 years we'd gone from kind of nothing, you know, just small time selling chocolate bars, you know, at lunchtime occasionally, to speaking at the national conference, you know, as a star-studded example of fair trade. And, you know, just a little school from East Grinstead, we'd achieved all this. I was very proud.
I can absolutely see that, because I'm guessing when you were doing it in the school, it was kind of like a hobby. I know you're very passionate about it, but I would imagine that you never thought, having been just in the school, that you would be plucked from that and put into a national arena such as the conference was. And as we said earlier, with people that probably knew quite a lot about fair trade anyway, but I'm guessing if I'd been at that conference, I think I would have been just as proud of the fact that the message was getting through to young people and getting through to a tiny little town in Sussex. And I think that probably the people attending that conference were just so glad to see you there and thinking, yay, do you know what? People are listening to this, and look, we've got these 6 people here telling us about their experiences. So well done you. That must have been absolutely brilliant. So what was the most often asked question at this workshop? Did you have people coming up to you and asking you stuff, or were you just doing a presentation?
Well, our main remit was in the first workshop we did, was to explain everything that we as a school do in our school. So the idea being that these campaigners, mostly who were town campaigners, the idea was that we would kind of tell them how they can get involved with their school in their town, and how they can support that town, that school even, to do events in their school. So one of the most common questions we're getting asked is really, how do you manage to do all these events? Because we're reading off all our Christmas markets and our workshops and our fair trade days and all the rest of that, and then I have to turn around and tell them that we actually do this on basically no budget. Gosh. And these are people who spend big on big events, and the first thing they ask is, how do you manage to do this on your budget? And I say, well,
what budget?
Well, exactly. I have to turn around and say,
people get a budget.
Exactly, it is exactly that. The only money we receive is prize money that we win from awards, and even that we don't really spend. We've got a lot in the account still that we just haven't spent, because I say that we run something like our Fair Trade Day, we don't spend any money running that. No. And they how do you manage to do that? And it's all just about I think schools are very unique places. It's the one place where you'll get lots of volunteers who will willingly, there's lots of students who will willingly do things, and they don't expect to be paid because they're children. So,
and you can put up posters and announce it in assembly. You haven't, I guess, got the big marketing budget that you might have to have if you were putting on an event, say, in the middle of the town. You can get the message out there. Far more easily.
Yeah, it's definitely
easiest, Oh, brilliant. So how many people took part? Did you say it was 6 people, or was there more?
I think it was only last year. It was about a year ago, because it was October last year, and I think there were 6 of us in total. We have more people in the committee at Imberhorn, but it was a Saturday, so and it's a whole day for the Saturday, so it was about who could come along, and we had a nice cross section actually from 6th form, which is what I'm in, and a couple of 6th formers, to some younger years as well. And I think our youngest person would have been 15, and to speak at a national conference at 15, is quite an achievement. So
really, absolutely quite. I guess it's like anything though, Henry, that when you're in the middle of it, although you've got the nerves, the adrenaline takes over, and you're there, you're in the moment, and you just do it because you have to,
Exactly.
And I guess it was nice too that there were a few of you, that you weren't totally on your own. That's always comforting, because if somebody dries up, somebody else hopefully can step in and carry it forward.
You definitely have a lot more confidence when you're doing it together. You're in it together. And it's kind of a do or die kind of situation, and it was successful. So it worked out. The comments, actually, the feedback we got from because obviously not all the delegates attended our workshops, but they obviously fill in the feedback forms, and the Fair Trade Foundation came back to us and said that one of the highest rated workshop was your workshop. All the delegates had such positive feedback for your workshop, saying what inspirational people. We had a fantastic time. We learnt so much. It was brilliant to see. All our, our workshops got 5-star reviews from the people who were in them, and to know that we didn't just go there just to deliver a workshop. We went there and we delivered a fantastic workshop.
Yeah,
I was so proud to be a part of that. It was delightful.
Done. Leslie, you've got a question. I can see you sitting there. Keep putting your hand up, darling. Go on, off you go.
Right, Henry, this is a challenging question. What did you gain personally from running these workshops? How do you think you grew in stature, or got more confidence, perhaps?
I think I have learned an enormous amount by doing everything to do with fair trade. Really, it's a challenge to do the workshops. It takes a lot of organisation, and I think you can't leave anything to chance. Really, you have to be covered and make sure everything is going to go to plan. And I'm normally quite an organised and meticulous person anyway, but you can't leave any stone unturned, and especially when you've got the Fair Trade Foundation relying on you. I feel a big sense of don't want to let them down. So there is a lot of pressure on you, and I think it's about, personally, I learned about kind of handling the pressure and making sure you organise it, but most importantly, you've got to deliver it as well. And so it is about confidence as well. But I've grown in confidence quite a lot since starting with Eco Committee. The Eco Committee started way back when I was in Year 7, and just from doing that, I started doing assemblies when I was in Year 8 to 200 people, and then you started doing the trash events, which Imberhorn used to host here in the Jubilee Centre, which was a fashion show, and I did a speech for everyone there. So that's about 600 people, and then
that's where they make costumes out of rubbish, isn't it? Yeah,
yes, it
I
is.
remember that.
And yeah, that was good fun actually. Back when it was when it was running, and when after the time when you speak again and again and again. I was at the East Grinstead and Bloom Award evening yesterday, and I was doing I did a little speaking part there. I was guest speaker there, and by the time that was packed out, that must have been 250 people. It was packed yesterday. But I don't get nervous at all anymore. I remember I used to be terrified when I first did my first assembly. My heart was beating fast, my palms were all sweaty, and I'm thinking, I feel sick and everything. But
I can't remember what I just said.
Yeah, no,
I have that all the time.
It was terrifying the first time I ever did a bit of public speaking like that. But by yesterday, it's all gone, and that's down to the opportunities that I've been given at Imberhorn through fair trade, through eco, and through a host of other things as well. I don't get nervous anymore. I just go up there and just speak
and just do it.
Yeah.
Now, with all this going on, Henry, how on earth do you have time for any other hobbies other than the ones we've already mentioned? You must obviously just concentrate on those things and do nothing else at all, or am I wrong?
Well, yeah, well, yes, you are a little bit wrong. I do play the piano as well. I've dabbled in the art of piano playing. I've done a few grades for that as well. I tell you, that's quite nerve-wracking, actually, doing a piano exam.
Have you entered the Music and Arts Festival in East Grinstead as well?
No, I'm not that good. I wouldn't want to embarrass myself doing that. I think it is more a hobby kind of thing, and I do also spend quite a lot of time, just looking up kind of extracurricular stuff to my preferred subjects at school. I'd like to, and I also like to get out in the countryside a lot. I do like going for walks in the woods and around the countryside as well.
And are you allowed to help your parents in their garden, or is it a case of hands off, Henry, this is ours, you go and find your own garden, lovey, to sort out?
No, it's more a question of hands on, Henry, do the weeding.
All sounds good to me. Now, I first met you at the Ravenswood when you received your most recent award, and I mentioned it at the top of the hour. It was the Community Service Award, and it was a lovely day, and you were given this award you were nominated by Councillor Bob Mainstone, who is our town mayor, and presented the award by the Chairman of the Council, Peter Reid, and the High Sheriff of West Sussex. Did you enjoy the afternoon?
It was a lovely afternoon. I was was so flattered to be nominated by Bob, and it was just a privilege to be there. I kind of felt, should I really be here? You know, but it was a lovely afternoon.
Was it a good afternoon tea? That's the most important question.
They had some very good cake there, so I was.
Did they?
Yes, I mean I wasn't so keen on the sandwiches because I'd just eaten lunch, but the cake, straight in for the cake and the scones as well. So yes, I'm a bit
cream
greedy,
and jam.
But, the jam had run out, so I went for by the time I got to the buffet, so I went for a scone with cream and then fresh strawberries on top, which was just as good.
You could have taken them a jar of your Imberhorn produced jam, couldn't you?
We could have taken a jar. I didn't have one. I didn't have one on me at the time.
You've obviously got a little outlet there. If they're the sort of place that's going to keep running out of jam, I reckon you should try and flog them some. You missed a trick there, but we'll let you have that one, Henry. Now, what is next for Henry? You just said a moment or two ago that you've moved on from Imberhorn now that you've done your GCSEs and your A levels. And now you're going somewhere else. Where are you going?
I am off to the University of Oxford on Monday.
Wow. And what are you going to be studying?
I'm going to be doing biology at Merton College, and I am really looking forward to it.
I'm sure you are. You must have such proud parents as well.
I know they are really proud, and my grandparents as well.
Yeah.
So they are all, they all say, they are really proud of me.
You've set a benchmark quite high for yourself now, though.
Yes.
There's going to be no drinking at Oxford. You do realise that. There's going to be no getting drunk, no ending up in any little scrapes.
No, of course not. Well, they have a cheese and wine evening, which I think is probably the extent of it. But
well, that sounds good to me. Henry, thank you so much for coming in this afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed being with us as much as we've enjoyed chatting to you, because
very much enjoyed
you've
it.
been a total inspiration, and I suspect that a lot of what you've ended up doing has actually just happened rather than you engineering anything, that you suddenly have found yourself in the middle of all these wonderful things. But I tell you what, nothing happens without a lot of hard work, so well done you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Henry,
Thank
and
you.
have a fantastic 3 years, is it?
3 years,
3
yes.
years at Oxford.
Yeah, make sure you do a bit of punting.
You have been listening to a recorded live interview with Henry Grubb of Imberhorn School, East Grinstead, on Rotary on the Radio show on 107 Meridian FM. The show is produced by the East Grinstead Meridian Rotary Club and transmitted live every Saturday between 1 and 4 o'clock. You can also listen to the show on the internet by going to meridianfm.com and clicking on the Live Listen tab. If you are interested in knowing more about Rotary in East Grinstead, then go to our website meridianrotary.co.uk and you can contact us by email or telephone. Thank you for listening.
Rotary on the Radio, going around East Grinstead and the surrounding villages on 107 Meridian FM every Saturday afternoon, 1 till 4 p.m. Great guests. Awesome music. Fantastic presenters.